up to the 30, the 20, 10, 5, Torrey Horton back to the end zone.
48-yard play. Guess who? Body up the middle, making another move to the outside. 15, 10, end zone again.
Keeps it. Nice move by Brown. He's got space. He's got 6. 35-yard touchdown for Byron Brown. A record-setting night for the South Florida quarterback.
Down so far, a little bit of a high snap. Genty right up the middle. Genty has room. Ashton Genty, give him 6.
Second and long. Lagar tries to fit it in. Ramos, it does. Ramos stays up. The Suns offense 4-3 wheels. Incredible effort for Ramos.
The G5 Hive. All G5, all the time.
Welcome to the G5 Hive Live. College football is back, baby, and we are excited to bring you G5 college football coverage that you love each and every week. I am Luke, and I am joined by my co-host, Justice.
What's going on, man? A lot to be excited for this week. We got to whet our college football appetite. We had some appetizers, if you will, 4 games yesterday. 3 of those involved G5 teams, and then this week we get a full buffet this week, baby. We got games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, as far as G5 games, and then we got other games I think on Sunday and Monday as well. So yeah, 4 days of college football. So yeah, full buffet, 4 smorgasbord.
All right, so yeah, this has been a exciting week. This week on Thursday, August 27th, we will hit our 1-year anniversary from our first ever show. It's been a fun and exciting year so far. That Worker Bee series is great to wrap up. It was a lot of work, but I think you guys all enjoyed it. We have been growing like crazy with followers on X and YouTube subscribers, and we are looking forward to seeing growth here in year 2. We are so very, very close to hitting 400 subscribers by week 1. We're currently sitting at 397. With that being said, if you are watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're watching us on X, please give us a follow, a like, a retweet. And if this is something you're listening to us in podcast form, please rate and review. Justice, what does the swarm need to know?
Well, first we got a couple shout outs, I guess, to say. Hi to Brett. Brett's been waiting in the pre-room, if you will, for us to go live tonight. So, hey Brett, how you doing? Robbie, what's going on, buddy? Excited to see those Owls play here in week 1. Excited to see what Cam Fancher can do and who's going to be that slot wide receiver there for the Owls in 2024. And finally, Billy, what's going on, buddy? Glad to see you. Glad you guys could join us. We're going to talk about some news and notes. We're going to go over the week 0 games, and then we're going to get into the week 1 games. So if you guys have any thoughts on the week 0 games or the week 1 games, get those to us, and we'll be going over those shortly. But first, our news and notes, kind of what you guys need to know, what's kind of happened in the world of G5 college football since our last live show, which was last Monday. The first thing is huge news. The Mid-American Conference, the MAC, as we call them, is going to introduce availability reports, aka injury reports, for this coming season. And the reports will be submitted no later than 3 hours before kickoff of the game. That is huge news. Last year, the Big Ten was the only conference that did it. It's great to see the MAC doing it. As we've talked, Luke and I have talked many times, the MAC is one of the toughest conferences to get information out of. There are very few true beat reporters. And so, getting this information out of the MAC where there's a lot of, we relied on a lot of student reporters. It's just going to be huge, man. And to see the MAC do this, and as Brett mentioned, the SEC as well, joining the Big Ten. So it's 3 conferences now. With the MAC doing it, I'm asking, what's the excuses for these other conferences to not do it, right? If the MAC can do it, then anybody can do it, right?
The Vegas has spoken. The bettors have spoken. They say we want to bet on Maction. Give us injury reports. That's what happened. That's what's happened.
It's yeah, man. It's just great news, all around, and hopefully we'll see more conferences start to follow suit. The other, there was kind of a lot of big news this week. But another one was the NCAA announced the transfer portal windows for the upcoming season. The winter portal windows December 9th to January 7th, and then the spring portal window is April 16th through the 30th. Well, after that came out, like a couple days later, now there's talk that there won't be a spring portal window. It'll only be the winter portal window. And man, that's huge news as well, because folks are going to have to make a decision. Hey, back in December and January, am I leaving or going? They're not going to be able to go through spring camp, see how the depth chart shakes out, and then elect to go. I just like I just kind of find it funny, I guess, that that the NCAA is now kind of like, or probably like the big time programs are kind of like, hey man, we can't be doing this all year round. We got to get some relief. And so I just found it very interesting and kind of funny how they're kind of walking things back in terms of the transfer portal compared to where it was just a year ago. Very interesting.
And I don't know if this is just, the NCAA has kind of lost its stranglehold on some of these schools where this is, we kind of seem to be moving more towards kind of that NBA type style where like the players kind of almost run the league, where it's like, hey, we want this super team over here, this or this. We want to go to this team or this team. It almost kind of seemed like that's where NCAA football and most sports were kind of going to. And then, if they move to this where it's just that one window, like then that's kind of the NCAA trying to control like the limited things that they can control.
Yeah, I mean it's great as a fan, right? Because you kind of like you're going to know the rosters, a lot sooner than you did currently. The one thing I will say though is it's definitely going to prevent those guys from transferring after the spring because they won't be able to. But as we've seen, even recently, if a guy does, if a kid enters the portal and he commits to a school, as long as he doesn't enroll in that school, he's not officially at that school, and so he's never, quote, I guess, officially left the portal, and they can change their minds multiple times. And so it'll be interesting to see if we don't see more guys kind of take that route, right? We saw it happen. Rashad Amos comes to mind, right? I think he committed to like 4 or 5 schools before he actually ended up at Ole Miss. But the same thing, he committed to a school. He never enrolled at that school, and thus he was technically still in the portal. And so you might see guys do that more often than what we've seen here this past year. It's a good thing, right? I mean, I don't see how it's a bad thing. It helps the coaches manage their rosters easier.
Everybody's thing is like, oh, the coach is going to leave whenever, but you're still going to have that whole 30-day window from when a coach leaves and this and that. So, for the most part, I think having one window is good for college sports.
Yeah, and like Billy said, it kind of helps the coaches, right? Kind of know their rosters. It's now it will. I don't know about if it'll take less pressure off the kids. Probably put some more pressure on them, right? Because they got to make a decision before spring practice. But that it definitely helps the coaches and as far as that goes, and maybe it'll help the kids make better decisions too, right? I mean, we see all the time where kids enter the transfer portal thinking the grass is greener on the other side, and then all of a sudden that grass isn't so greener. So maybe this will be a good thing all around. All right. Now this news, like I guess it's been talked about for a long time. In terms of UConn's the other than Notre Dame, they're the last man standing in terms of conference, right? Independent. they were in the AAC, and then they decided, hey, we'd rather be in the Big East for basketball reasons. And so then the football became independent again. And now there's talks that UConn could possibly be joining the Big 12 in all sports, and that all sports other than football might join next year. I've seen reports. I think the initial reports were all sports but football in 2026. And then more recently, they said, hey, maybe all those sports will join in 2025. But then, as far as what I've heard from football, it says 2031 is when they would go. Clearly, from the Big 12 perspective, this has to be a basketball move, right? I mean, women's and men's basketball. UConn is elite in both of those sports. Obviously, it's not a football driven move, that's for sure. It'll be. I mean, if it does happen, it'll be interesting to see what UConn can do in terms of getting that football program more competitive to play in that Big 12.
Yeah, and I mentioned this, I don't know, a while back, a long time ago, but you bring in Arizona, you've got Kansas, and then you bring in UConn. Like, that'll be some pretty fun basketball to watch. But enough with the basketball talk. Let's keep it on football. What else do we need to know, Justice?
So this next thing is it's not G5 news specifically, because it's not a G5 program that's doing it. But however, like, it's an interesting idea, and I'm just waiting for us to see more programs do it. So Oklahoma State announced that starting this season, they will have QR codes on the back of their helmets. It's not very big. There's guidelines how big it can be, etc. But if you scan those QR codes on the back of the Oklahoma State helmets, like you're watching the game, Alan Bowman throws a touchdown, or Ollie Gordon has 200 yards and 6 touchdowns rushing, then you can scan that QR code, and then you can donate money to the Oklahoma State Collective. I don't know, like, part of me feels like it's a kind of a genius idea, like whoever thought of it, right? Be interesting to see like other schools follow suit. Now, when you donate to the team, right, you're donating to the whole team. But can you imagine a day where Ashton Jinky goes for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns, and I can scan his helmet and I can Venmo Ashton Jinky $25, right? Right there. I don't know, like, is that where it's going to head? I don't know. The flip side of it is your favorite quarterback at your favorite school throws 3 interceptions. Can you send him a request to say, hey man, you owe me $20 for screwing up today? I don't know, but I don't know. Those are just kind of interesting thoughts.
What I want to see is, like, I feel like it would be hard to do it when you're in the stands. It's more for like an at-home experience, but it's like,
Oh, yeah.
Justice just had a big run. And then instead of like the highlight, they just like put up this QR code. Like, how are they going to get, are they going to have this QR code that just like keeps popping up and whatnot? And people who play fantasy college football and people who play, or betting or whatever. And they're like, this just won me some money, or prop bets, whatever it is. Like, and that's how they get most of their money. That would be hilarious. But that's what I want to see, is how does Oklahoma State do instant replay? Do they have like just a small QR code at the bottom? Do they flash it big? What is it going to be? That is something interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to kind of see like how the TV producers handle it, right? Do they tell the cameraman, hey man, like, avoid that QR code, like don't focus on it, or how they're going to work it in? It's definitely going to be interesting, and hopefully others. I would assume like other schools are going to follow suit, right? I think that would be something very easy to copy and emulate, and then other schools will do it too. I do hope it. I hope it doesn't get like what you said, that there's like a QR code on the broadcast. That'd be kind of crazy. I can see that kind of getting like a little bit busy and overboard.
But I will give the Big 12, pretty innovative. Bring in the new commissioner. Big 12 is doing some interesting things in general.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of helmets, Utah State unveiled a new helmet this week. If you're watching us on YouTube or Twitter, I'm gonna show it here right now. So if you don't know, Utah announced a unique look for their Week 1 game. It's in honor of being founded as an agricultural university, and they'll be celebrating that agricultural history with the best way I could describe it as a cow print helmet, right? I mean, that's kind of what it looks like. Looks like a cow with the Utah State logo helmet. It's kind of different, unique. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this done anywhere in college football in terms of like a cow print. I don't know, just kind of cool, different. I never knew that Utah State was founded as an agricultural university, so it's definitely meeting like the intent in terms of bringing awareness to that. You like it, Luke?
Yeah, I think it looks pretty slick. I'll be interested to see what the uniforms look like. If they
are they going to
follow
have cow
suit.
print and udders on the uniform?
Well, maybe not the udders, but are they kind of the splash of blue? I think honestly, like all white unis with like kind of a backsplash of those blue spots would look pretty sick. So, I mean, they
Yeah.
probably won't do anything. I think it'll probably just use their normal white jerseys or whatnot. An all white jersey would look pretty sick with that, I think.
Yeah, but I saw that, and that was pretty cool. And then while we're talking about uniforms, you see if you're watching on YouTube or Twitter, you see the UL Monroe uniform, and man, I gotta tell you, that thing's pretty. That's pretty awesome looking uniform. So they unveiled their new black uniforms. I would call it their new P40 uniforms. I believe that's what they referred to them in the past, especially that helmet. They call it the P40 helmet. It's kind of modeled after the Curtiss P-40 Warhawk fighter bomber warplane. They've added the logos on the sleeves there of the black, and I just think it's an awesome look. I hope they wear them more than once because I mean I just think it's a pretty sweet looking uniform there for the UL Monroe Warhawks.
I mean, look, these uniform helmet games are being stepped up. Looks sweet with a visor. Don't know how I'd feel about wearing those uniforms early on.
Well, at least in the middle of the
down,
day. At nighttime, maybe it's not too bad.
Yeah, maybe on the turf, it's like maybe wait till like I want to wear those in October. Maybe not so much in September. Maybe I don't know.
All right. So getting into some more player news, some bad news. I'll start with some bad news first. North Texas safety Aisheem Young is out for the season with a knee injury. They didn't specify the actual injury. I would assume it's an ACL, with him being gone for the season. But that's a big blow for North Texas. When we spoke with Brett Vito in our Worker Bee series, Aisheem Young was like a key piece that they recruited to come to North Texas and run that 3-3-5 defense. If you remember from our interview, Brett said that last year they ran that they implemented that 3-3-5 and they didn't have the personnel to run it, and that was why the defense was just so bad in 2023. And that in 2024 they went out and they've recruited folks to specifically play this particular style of defense that they want to run. And Aisheem Young was going to be a big part of that defense. He is a transfer from Ole Miss, so he's going to be missed in that North Texas defense, and we'll see kind of how that plays out week 1. Obviously, someone's going to take his spot, but they don't get a lot of players the caliber of Aisheem Young coming down from the SEC. Who was a really good player, I thought, in the SEC, and so that's going to have a big impact there on that North Texas Mean Green defense. Now, getting into some quarterback news. So most of this news is predominantly all quarterbacks because those are the ones that the schools make a big deal about who's going to be the starter. It's easy to find that kind of stuff on X and social media. But Georgia Southern has named J.C. French as its starting quarterback in week 1. He was in a 3-way battle there with David Dallas and Dexter Williams. I think this news comes at a little bit of a surprise, right? I think most people, at least fairly recently, thought, hey, it's going to be David Dallas. He looked really good in some scrimmages they had and in practice. And And so I think a lot of folks thought it would be Dallas, but much to their surprise, it's going to be J.C. French. Be interesting to see if maybe there's a short leash, right? And see if they have a short leash, and French looks bad in the first half. They put Dallas or even Dexter Williams out there in the second half. But we'll see what happens there with the Georgia Southern Eagles here in week 1. Now Tulsa, on the other hand, they announced Kirk Francis as their starting quarterback. However, they said that all 3 quarterbacks will play in week 1. So that's Francis, Cooper Lega, the transfer coming from Utah State, and Cardell Williams. I don't know, I don't know that I like that model per se, because what happens when you get in what happens if Kirk Francis goes out there and lights it up, right? And so then are you going to stick to that and play all 3 guys? Like I feel like when you make those kind of announcements, you kind of set an expectation that it's going to happen, right? I mean,
and then what I think is honestly, it's kind of a worse for the offensive line and the wide receivers, because the offensive line has to kind of have that feeling what's going on behind them, and once you are switching that up, it's kind of hard to know what that feel is. Obviously, the O-line does the O-line stuff, keeping the quarterback protected, but kind of knowing what the habits are of a quarterback, I think are very important. But then also building that trust with the wide receivers and knowing what that player is going to do. Obviously, you hear about, this quarterback's got a rapport with this wide receiver, and so forth. So I think those are the 2 things that screw up things the most. And I don't care who teams play week 1, even if you have like those cupcake games or whatnot, that reps are all you need. You need those live bullets. It's different than any practice. It's different than any scrimmage. You're actually going to get hit. There's like some practices I know that the defensive line can't swat the ball down. Like, okay, well, that's kind of tough to really know what's happening with live bullets if your defensive line isn't being allowed to knock the ball down. And then it kind of just sucks for the defensive line. It's like, okay, this is how we practice, and then in the game we have to know to do it. I don't know. Coaches are weird, but I don't like it. I would agree with you. A long-winded way to say I don't like it.
Yeah, because like I said, you set the expectation that's going to happen, and then if it doesn't happen, then I don't know. I just feel like if that's what you want to do, that's fine, but you don't need to tell the whole world, right? Just do it, because if you go tell the whole world, then folks are expecting it to happen, and they don't happen, then you just cause unnecessary questions, drama, whatever you want to call it. So just I'd rather you just do that, rather than actually tell folks that that's going to happen. Now, as a fantasy player, obviously, I'm glad that he said it, right? Because now hey, I'm not starting Kirk Francis this week or any of those other quarterbacks just because they're not expected to play the full game. Some good injury news out of Louisiana Tech. Running back Marquise Crosby appears to be healthy and ready to go week 1. He'll be sharing backfield duties with Denario Davenport, the transfer from Texas State, and word is the 2 of those guys will be getting the bulk of the work and running the ball there for the Bulldogs in week 1. So that's great news, because when we interviewed Ben with Bleed Tech Blue, I think there were still some questions about Crosby's health, when or if he's going to be healthy, but it looks like he's answered that bell. He's healthy. He's going to be ready to go here week 1 for the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs. Another quarterback that's, I don't know, based on our Worker Bee interview, I never would have guessed this, but Buffalo has announced CJ Agbana as the starting quarterback for week 1. I personally thought it would be Jack Shields. CJ Agbana, when he played last year, his passing ability left a lot to be desired. When we interviewed Rachel, the beat reporter there for Buffalo, she kind of echoed the same thing from the spring, right? That none of the quarterbacks looked that great. She seemed very hopeful that Jack Shields would come in and look great because Jack Shields didn't transfer until after spring practice. So, I don't know if Shields came in, didn't look good, or if Agbana just made a huge jump from spring to fall. But nonetheless, CJ Agbana is your starting quarterback there for the Bulls in week 1. I don't know. It's got if I'm looking for a lot of production from wide receiver Nick McMillan, that would have me super concerned, just based on what we've seen from Agbana up to this point.
Yeah, I'm nervous about the Bulls this season, and I mean, we'll see what happens, but they're going to need a quarterback, I think, here in the next couple of years.
All right, moving on to some more injury news. So Fresno State running back Malik Sherrod has been missing practice over the last week. He's been absent since their second scrimmage, and we should know more midweek. But they are expecting him to play here in week 1. Stay tuned to our social media accounts if we see or hear something about Sherrod and any concerns for week 1. We will definitely share that. But right now, it looks like he's going to play. But probably midweek, we probably should know some more information. Back to the quarterbacks. General Booty. He's named the starting quarterback for the UL Monroe Warhawks. I guess it's kind of between him and Reese Mooney. I think most folks assumed it would be General Booty here for the Warhawks. He transfers over from Oklahoma. He came in the fall, the same as Reese Mooney, who came over from Liberty via North Texas in the fall. So we're going to see General Booty here week 1 for the Warhawks.
If they do not introduce the starting lineup and do booty rocking everywhere when he comes out, I feel like it's a big fail. That's just my opinion. General Booty.
Well, like he throws a touchdown or something. That's got it. Like like whoever the DJ is or the sound guy. Like if he doesn't already have that sound clip ready to go every time there's a touchdown, like, you need to fire him, right? Like, come on. Staying with the quarterbacks, Ben Finley, the transfer from California, previously at NC State, has been named the starting quarterback for the Akron Zips. And then this next quarterback, it should not be a shock. I think everyone knew this was going to happen, but it was made official this week. Chandler Morris is officially the starting quarterback for the North Texas Mean Green. I look for him to have an outstanding year, provided he can stay healthy, right? We've talked about it numerous times. Like, if he can just stay healthy, man, he can have a lights out season there for the Mean Green. But that seemed like that's been a big if for him, right? The last 2 years, he won the starting job at TCU. 2 years ago, he got knocked out to injury. Max Dugan took over, and the rest was history, right? He took him all the way to the national championship game. And then last season, Morris won the job again, only to get injured again, and Josh Hoover took over and led them the rest of the way. So that's definitely a big if for Chandler Morris, but if he can stay healthy, I expect big things from him here in this Mean Green offense.
And I just expect big things. I mean, you can't ever just expect an injury or plan on an injury. I mean, I guess you could say probably running backs. You could probably plan on an injury. Offensive, defensive lineman probably going to get hurt. But like quarterback wise, a lot of the rules are meant to protect them and whatnot. And yeah, he's been hurt the last couple of years, but I expect a lot of big things from North Texas here in 2024.
And
Brett, in the chat, you just want info on Sherrod. Is that what you want? Make sure you put that in the chat below. But like you said, Justice said, when we hear things, we'll make sure to get them out in social media. I believe they play Michigan week 1. So.
Yeah, so you're probably not starting Sherrod week 1 anyway, right? Not against Michigan. So, I mean, that's probably a good thing from a fantasy perspective. The one thing I was going to add to North Texas needs him to stay healthy. They have like zero depth behind Chandler Morris. If Morris were to go down, my guess tells me to expect Cash McCollum, a true freshman. But clearly, they don't want to be putting a true freshman out there. So I think for everyone's sake, let's hope Chandler Morris stays healthy and has an amazing season there for the Mean Green. Next up, Tate Rodemaker named the starting quarterback for the Southern Mississippi Golden Eagles. Again, I don't think that one's is a big shock either. He comes over from Florida State. Kind of interesting, right? AJ Duffy goes to San Diego State, loses the job to true freshman Danny O'Neill. Tate Rodemaker goes over to Southern Mississippi, and he gets named the starter there for the Golden Eagles. It's going to be interesting to see kind of how Southern Miss does this year, right? I think Will Hall's probably on the hot seat, and so he's going to need to produce some wins there, I think, this year to avoid the proverbial axe come this fall, and he's going to trust Tate Rodemaker to kind of deliver that for him. Gio Lopez, South Alabama, named the starting quarterback. There had been some talk that he was in a battle with Bishop Davenport. There was some concern that maybe, obviously there was concern after the spring game when reportedly he didn't complete a pass. I saw some more concern from a recent scrimmage where they didn't think he looked all that great, and maybe Davenport outplayed him. But South Alabama has officially named him the starting quarterback, and maybe he's one. Some guys just don't do so well in practice, and when the lights come on, they're a different player, and maybe that's Gio, right? We saw what he did in that bowl game. He looked really, really good for the Jaguars, and and hopefully he can keep that going here with the full-time job here in 2024. Cam Fancher was named the starting quarterback for the Florida Atlantic Owls. He was in a battle there with Tyreek Starks. Don't know if Robbie's still watching us, but shout out to Robbie to for doing that worker bee interview with us. But it looks like Cam Fancher has won that job for the Owls, at least for week 1 anyway. And then speaking of Owls, Temple this week named today named Forrest Brock their starter. He was in a battle with Rutgers transfer Evan Simon. And then finally, we talked about this a little bit last week, the Tulane quarterback situation. There's nothing official yet. Don't have anything to, quote, officially share. But, if you pay attention to some Tulane social media accounts, all signs are pointing to it being Darian Mensah as QB1 for the Green Wave here in week 1. We mentioned it last week that it was a 3-way battle between Mensah, Ty Thompson, and Kai Horton. And, just seems like Mensah has played outstanding in fall camp, right? When fall camp opened, the coaching staff was pretty open. It's a battle between Ty Thompson and Kai Horton. Well, Darian Mensah just played so well that they couldn't ignore it. And he played so well, he looks like he's probably going to get named the starting quarterback there for the Green Wave. And that's comes as a little bit of a shock, right? I mean, I don't think anyone saw this coming. Certainly not before fall camp started.
Yeah, and Mensah was out there. He heard that it's between Horton and Ty Thompson. He said he's underage, so he said, "Hold my juice box." He said, "Watch this," and he went out there, and it sounds like he's been doing his thing. Yeah, you look at social media and whatnot. There's a lot of him throwing to Mario Williams. A lot of people talking highly about Mensah. So I think that's what we're going to hear. And if we don't hear it, going into the game, they do. I'm trying to remember which directional type school that they play in week 1. But I would expect that we see more than him just playing. We'll see how much run he gets, but I would expect, just like all these other ones that have QB battles, that we'll see more of them. But I think it's Mensah's job. They've got a big game week 2 against Kansas State, and then followed up with Oklahoma. So they want to know what they have going into those games.
And so finally, our last piece of news. Again, this is nothing official. This is just kind of some rumors that we've been seeing and hearing. And regarding the Central Michigan quarterback situation, it looks like Joe Labas, the transfer, I think from Luke should be from there. I'm pretty sure he's from Iowa, right, Luke? Wasn't he an Iowa transfer? It looks like he's probably going to be the guy week 1 there for the Chippewas. The school put out an article sometime this week, I think maybe Tuesday or something, and there was like zero mention of Bert Emanuel Jr. Doesn't look like he's been practicing. There's some rumors that maybe he's dealing with an injury, specifically possibly a hamstring injury. And so it looks like maybe Joe Labas will get to start week 1. But we've been under the impression that, hey, if assuming full health for everyone, that we'd probably would have seen both of them in week 1, and that still may happen, right? We don't know. If Bert Emanuel Jr. is out week 1, that still might not give us a whole lot of information, because then now the question is, okay, when he becomes healthy, what are they going to do? And it could be a mess all year. Perhaps maybe they have special packages, right, where they kind of platoon 2 quarterbacks. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that kind of concept, but sometimes folks do it. So just kind of stay tuned there on that Central Michigan quarterback situation.
The only thing that can really happen out of the Central Michigan game week 1 is run the ball a lot, and then if they do have to pass the ball quite a bit, is that he takes the job and he wins it in that game. I don't think there'll be any losing it in the game. It'll just, unless it's awful, I guess you could lose it. But I think if anything, like, this is the chance for him to take the job. All right, that does it for our rundown. Wow, we are excited for week 1. We love your comments through Twitter, through YouTube, because Justice and I, we're the top, we're the pretty faces that you guys are hearing. Yeah. That's what it is. But honestly, your guys' comments help make the show. You guys are just a part, just as much a part of the show as we are. We got 117 people watching us on X Live. We want these comments. We want to interact. We want you guys to feel like you're just as much of the show as we are. But we want, come back and join us next week as we discuss what's happened in week 1, as well as look forward to week 2 of the 2024 season, and as well bring you up to date with all of the latest news and all the happenings in the world of G5 college football. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're watching us on X, please give us a retweet, like, and a follow. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please subscribe and leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. Thank you all for your support. And until the next time, we are the G5 Hive.